Steyn. Join me as I do interviews with leaders in the field of artificial intelligence from across the world. We speak about the business relevance of artificial intelligence, and we also speak about the future. Is it to be feared or to be embraced? Please subscribe at my website for updates on future interviews. Today's conversation will be of particular interest to leaders in the field of human capital management. I'm speaking with Dr. Raul Rodriguez, the Dean of the School of Business at Woxsen University. He holds a Ph.D. in Artificial Intelligence and Robotics process automation applications in human resources. We touched on the need to upskill the workforce of the future and on the amazing techno-managerial MBA program at Woxsen that combines business management skills with emergent technological innovation. He's the co-author of 2 reference books and has more than 70 publications to his credit. Raul's experience covers involvement with the European Commission, the Advisory Council of the Harvard Business Review, and the Artificial Intelligence Society at Oxford University. Welcome. I trust that you will enjoy listening to this fascinating conversation.
Raul, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Hyderabad in India. It's an honor speaking to you. I look forward to this conversation. You've got a very impressive resume. If I look at your LinkedIn profile and some other websites I looked at, if I remember correctly, you did some academic work in Spain and also in Mexico, and obviously you're working in the academia field in India at the moment. You did your PhD in artificial intelligence. So let's maybe kick off with your studies, your PhD. What particular field within artificial intelligence did you focus on?
So to give more of a quick background on that, my background is more related to the area of psychology and sociology initially, so I focus on liberal arts a little. And then, of course, as I move forward, I jump into the field of technology, in this case, big data, AI, algorithms, algebra. So my approach to AI is a bit different from the conventional approach. Normally, professionals or academicians focus more on the technical side. I focus on the technical as well on the social side, because at the end of the day, you have something called artificial intelligence or machine learning. You have intelligence and learning, which are 2 psychological concepts. So you need to be aware, first of all, of the human psychological factor in order to comprehend how to design these algorithms. Within my PhD, I specifically focus on the application of these algorithms in the field of human resources. So I kind of revolutionized a bit the sector by taking AI algorithms, mainly computer vision as well as NLP, and transform the whole HR infrastructure from the recruitment side to the employee engagement, candidate engagement, recommending courses, predicting attrition, and so on. So I moved from that parameter.
I think human resources is a fascinating field when we speak about this technology. About a year or 2 ago, a banking client asked me to speak to their human resources leadership about artificial intelligence. And like a lot of people, a lot of clients, they think it's the silver bullet that will just fix everything very quickly. And then we discovered that their very basic processes, end-to-end processes, from identifying and onboarding candidates all the way through the life cycle of the employee and the employee experience, is not even properly defined, or the process is not in place. So, I said to them, before we even look at this, get your basic processes in place, understand it. Are you also doing work commercially, if you would, in advising businesses when it comes to this technology and HR?
I used to, yes. Now, because academia by itself is pretty time consuming, and there doesn't really give you much scope to do any other consulting work. But earlier, yes, I used to do it, especially in the finance sector, HR sector, and somewhat I used to touch the supply chain sector, logistics as well when it comes to optimization. It was a merge between AI and robotics. So I used to recommend and advising on those regards. But something which you mentioned, which is true, people think is the silver bullet here. At the moment, there is nothing called AI. AI does not exist as we want to know it. There is no artificial general intelligence. We have machine learning, and that's all we have right now. So this perception, as you know, is social media perception, that AI is everywhere. But we need to sensitize people a little that this is still as a field in research. It will take some years to develop, especially with quantum AI coming in the picture, and it will surely be mesmerizing.
You say currently with the technology that we have, what are the greatest advantages of using this technology within HR?
What is one of the greatest advantages? Well, I will say that not just predicting attrition, employee attrition, but also making sure that your employees are satisfied and you are providing the right benefits and compensation to those who deserve it more is one of the applications that machine learning or deep learning, for that matter, are really focused upon. Mainly because at the end of the day, we all need a paycheck. So that is one of the more key factors in life for every human being. Making sure that the employees are satisfied with the company and they don't feel like leaving, of course, all that it carries around, the psychological anxiety and the stress of it. Avoiding that, thanks to machine learning, can be surely a huge revolution in the industry, especially because HR affects every company in the world. There is no company without HR. So this factor can be really critical.
You also mentioned psychology and sociology, and I agree with your earlier point. I think there is a relevant point where computer scientists work in this field and they're doing amazing work, but we can't do it in isolation of how it is and will be impacting us as humans. So if we look into the future, and there's so much controversy, if you would, or dispute about when are we going to be at general artificial intelligence, and you don't even mention the singularity and all those things, but it is having, and it will, I think, have a massive impact. So let's maybe talk about that because I don't think technology changed the foundational aspects of being human and our basic needs. But how do you think the world will change from that perspective, psychologically, sociology, and also as just being human? How is this technology going to impact and change us, do you think?
I feel people, society in general, are a bit concerned or scared because they feel that this technology will pop into some sort of Terminator-like reality, which is far from the truth, especially because researching upon such technology will take a lot of finances, and very few companies can afford such thing. But despite of that, somewhat there's going to be two processes. So the first process will be an anxiety, distress process, which will lead to rejection, initial rejection, like it happens upon every industrial revolution. But then after this, it will lead to some adaptability part, where people will start perceiving it like now we are using smartphones very commonly, using Alexa, Siri, Cortana, all these devices and softwares, and we are completely familiarized with them. In fact, nowadays, you take my smartphone away, I cannot even schedule things. So because of this technology that it seemed unrealistic in 2009, or 2008 rather, when Steve Jobs took care of launching the first iPhone, this will have seemed a complete magician work, but at the end of the day, that once you apply artificial intelligence and machine learning, it will take some years, 5, 10, 15 years to be implemented and adapted to people. Of course, they will suffer, jobs will be lost. Those who think that jobs are going to be lost, definitely, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a revolution. So an upskilling process will need to be there. But there's not going to be a job loss, it's going to be a job transformation. There's just like energy. It's not going to be created or destroyed, it's going to get transformed. Similar process is going to be followed here.
You think of the masses of workers, they call it the non-knowledge working class, if you would. I wonder if we'll be able to upskill the millions of people like that.
That's a question mark, yes.
Yeah, I think it's Nick Bostrom who speaks about the useless class that we are creating. And I think we'll always need plumbers and bricklayers and things like that. But I wonder if there are people, the masses, if we would be able to upskill. I think even just in a lot of corporates, if you think of a lot of banks, they're all on this upskilling journey because the technology is changing. But it seems that in a lot of places they are far behind schedule or it's not working. So I just wonder how it will impact the millions of people out there. You know, and if we would actually have people who can do anything in 20 or 30 years from now.
See, I feel relating to this exactly what is happening right now with the COVID-19, that not just jobs have been lost, but lives as well. You can see how so-called third world countries, and I mean so-called because they're called third world by the EU, US, Canada. So these countries with massive population, 1.3 billion people like in India, of course they are upskilling of that maybe 5-10% of the population which are actually educated. It's going to be challenging. Job will be lost. Of course, this so-called useless class of the population, like plumbers, carpenters, and so on, will really suffer because at the end of the day, if I take let's say, a Boston Dynamics robot, I enable it with AI, it can perfectly perform the same job, even faster and more accurately, and doesn't need to take leaves, doesn't need to take vacations, it's not going to get married, it's not certainly not going to take maternity leave. So it will perform like a 24/7 employee. Hence, companies will see on it an investment, and will see the human being as redundant. So jobs will be lost. Yes, can we do something about it? That's an ethical question. How far is too far? That I myself as a researcher have no answer for it, and I feel nobody has, because we just have to sit and watch what the future has in hand for us.
I think no one really knows, which makes it interesting.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about the work you're currently doing. You're at Woxsen University, you're the Dean of the School of Business. So maybe if you could just briefly tell us about the university, and then also about your specific work that you are doing there.
Right. So the university is a young institution, right now, 7 years old institution. It started with the School of Business, then it spread around with the School of Design, Architecture, and Engineering. So the logical factor will be that engineering will be the more appealing sector for me. But however, I saw the managerial field with a combination of technology to be even more appealing. For example, in the School of Business that I right now handle, we have various MBA and Bachelor of Degree programs in management, but one of them is pretty interesting. It's an MBA with artificial intelligence combined. So the specialization is AI and machine learning. So it's a somewhat techno-commercial degree, we can say, techno-managerial degree, which focuses upon the best of management in terms of global management, finances, HR, and then the best of AI and ML, talking about not just these applications, but how to program on Python. We teach them how to program on Julia programming language, which is to become the next Python. And we're also training on blockchain, finance, and many other fields related to the same. And they are really upskilled beyond the regular management graduates who will just go in the market with the management knowledge. So this is what we're trying to create. And this is very innovative. So far, I've not seen it in many places. And I hope more institutions can really start launching it effectively. And we can create this upskilling process in society, of course.
Fascinating. And like you said, I don't know of many tertiary institutions that's doing this, because I think the managers now, and definitely of the future, the leaders, need to be well versed in this kind of technology. They might not have to become artificial intelligence experts or data scientists or anything like that, but it's not a there's no question about the fact, I think, that business leaders need to understand this technology to make the right kind of decision. So it's really amazing to hear that you've combined, the classical business school kind of disciplines with this technological field. So I would imagine you are producing some very interesting business leaders through that approach. And then you also, I'm not sure if you're still involved with the Harvard Business Review on the Advisory Council. Maybe tell us a bit about that.
So basically, this council is the main functioning is to advise them on different topics or get guidelines or some routes to follow for further research. Because Harvard, being one of the pioneering universities in the world, one of the best, if not the best, has created this kind of Harvard Business School review, the Business Review, which is an advisory council meant to guide them on a global standards on what areas of research should we focus upon in the coming future, in base of the demands. In my case, of course, I will always pitch in and, of course, advise them to go for technological fields oriented in management. But other people have other specializations, be it marketing, finance, operations, whatever that might be, and they advise them on their areas of expertise. So it's a combination of, we can say, I really hate the word experts, but it's a combination of well-skilled people who have some years of experience or some background in the field and are able to advise accurately. And they have, of course, research skills as well as some background in the area of research. So that is the main area of it, main focus.
Another famous university, Oxford, the Artificial Intelligence Society. Are you still involved in that respect?
Yeah, that is more of an informal society, we can say. We can say some sort of collegiate sort of society. So people who are not as interested but who are studying as well in the field of AI or machine learning or even robotics, they join in. Of course, as per acceptance, you join and then you start developing some projects. You might do some common conferences, develop symposiums on the field. This came true, I came to know it because in the year 2014, if I'm not wrong, I was in Oxford University and I helped, along with two more colleagues and friends, organizing a symposium. So because of that, I connected with them and then throughout the years we remain in touch. So that's how it led through.
Interesting. One thing I'd like to ask you, because I think there's still a lot of confusion about the difference of robotic process automation and artificial intelligence. And I think a lot of people still see the two as almost the same. So there might be viewers right now that's still not sure. So I think in just a high-level, brief way, what are the main differences, would you say?
I think we can quickly give a key difference in that. When you speak about robotics, process automation, you're speaking about programming and getting an output, which is exactly what you program the system for, without any variations or external cognitive thinking. When it comes to AI, in this case, let's assume is machine learning and some sort of unsupervised learning, where the data is not labeled prior. We are expecting the system to give us outputs that we don't know about yet. So we are not expecting because we are unaware about it. That is, for example, what happens with chatbots. Chatbots which are deep learning enabled. You can program, let's say, 1,000 questions, but then beyond those 1,000 questions, more questions might pop in human mind. So the system records them and then learns from the responses, which is exactly what Amazon Echo or Google Home are doing nowadays, and they're working on those kind of software development systems. Of course, this will take us places, hopefully not beyond the human spectrum, because then we are going to be in trouble. So we have to maintain that limitation too.
I once heard, and it was a nice, simple explanation, that RPA is doing technology and AI is learning technology. So I think RPA is like you said, it's just you tell it what to do and it does it. It doesn't think, it doesn't do it better, that's not learning. I think sometimes RPA is a good start to eventually maybe go into an AI journey from a business point of view. But it's just strange that there's still so much confusion about it. I also wanted to ask you about books. I know you've written from an academic point of view, some books and reference material. I don't know if you've produced other books, but if you can maybe take us through some of the writing, and also I know you've written a lot of articles as well.
Yeah, so books I've written two, one on leadership, that was more of transformational leadership, it was more oriented towards the area of management rather than just technology. But of course, technology always gets involved somewhere or the other in the books. And then the next part of the book, which got published recently, was the book in retail. So it's a software system, it's a case study-based book. So with a software system, how applying that in the retail sector in the Indian context can improve certain retail functions. So this is more of RPA, looking from that standpoint. But right now I have in pipeline with other colleagues from my university a book on artificial intelligence applications for business functions. So here we are touching huge spectrum from the regular business functions of HR and finance to the field of sports, healthcare. So we are working across all this area, which is pretty huge in nature. In fact, there are more than, I feel it, if not wrong, there are 25 chapters in the book just on each field. So all these areas are being combined in that regard. When it comes to articles, if we talk about magazine articles or sort of weekly, monthly articles, I contribute to certain magazines in India, particularly such as Analytics India magazine, which is well established in the country in the field of analytics and AI. And then, of course, research papers come along the way, but as you well know, research papers are not one-man shot. They take some time to be produced and, of course, to be published as well. But again, it's on the same field. I normally go in both the fields in the IEEE concept of engineering papers, mainly on computer vision, and then on the management side. In fact, recently with one of my students, which you mentioned earlier, we're creating leaders. So I just popped. We just got a research paper on breast cancer prediction with machine learning and deep learning enabled systems. So it got recently accepted for a conference as well. So this was a paper mainly led by the student. I was advising, of course, but he was just leading it. Pretty intuitive, pretty extensive, all in detail, understanding every type of breast cancer. Pretty intuitive.
So, the field of AI in healthcare, I think it's so important. And some of my guests here before were working in that field because it touches who we are. It's one thing if my bank cannot service me as good as I would hope they could, but if my health is failing and this kind of technology can really help with the diagnosis and the treatment, that's real stuff. That's we're no longer playing with it. That's very important. So, in fact, I've got somebody that I'm going to do a call and a recording with next week who focuses also in this area, especially from a breast cancer point of view. So I'd like to connect the two of you as well. Maybe there's some collaboration opportunities or with your student, because it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, of course, we can connect, surely do some good work on this necessary field.
Yeah, super. I quickly want to circle back, Raul, to the idea of the MBA with the AI flavor to it. If people are watching this recording and they either have done an MBA years ago, or they might never have the opportunity to do an MBA, they just mid-management or upper management, and they're not technical, they've not been exposed to this technology. What if it's not an academic route they're going? What would you suggest they do to upskill themselves to learn more about this technology?
That's an important question, which I've been asked pretty recently in the last 4 months, because as you know, people have had a lot of free time, so they didn't know what to do with this free time. If you ask me, without doing any sort of brand promotion, but if you ask me, Coursera or EDX have pretty good courses, online courses with platforms. They are pretty intuitive, easygoing. Not all the courses are wonderful, but some of them are pretty good, like by Andrew Ng, for example, who is a very good academician and professional in the field of machine learning. So these courses are good, affordable, they're self-paced, which is more important. Then if you talk about, other than that, supporting material, I suppose, of course, people who like to read can engage with good books. There are various good books in the field of programming language, which are not boring, because most of the time these books are really, really boring. You cannot really embrace for more than 2 pages. But these are not reference books only. These are ongoing books. It's a sort of a novel mixed with the actual real world scenario. For example, recently I read the book titled LifePoint 3.0 by, forgot the name of the author right now, but this particular book is extraordinary in terms of the spectrum it follows. It's some sort of apocalyptic world where AI actually develops beyond the human spectrum, but how humans are able to control it and keep it in touch, and they see an advantage rather than a threat on it. So it will be a very interesting book to go through in this particular scenario. And then, of course, other than that, apart from online courses, if you can enroll in some sort of physical course or in-person course with a university, which are money for 10 hours, 20 hours, and get some enhanced knowledge, programming knowledge, because those who are not have any background on Python or Julia or C++ will have a really tough time. So having a person physically to help you will really be a plus point, but I don't know if that's possible in these times.
Also, Raul, before we end off, I want to circle back to human resources. So if HR leaders, divisional heads, people like that are watching this video, and they want to embark or investigate this kind of technology within HR, what would your tips to them be? What are the first important steps? What are the pitfalls maybe to avoid?
Well, the first pitfall to avoid is not to think that AI will replace you as a professional. Secondly, will be not to allow your company to become AI dependent when it comes to the field of HR. And the third pitfall will be to avoid feeling anxiety or distress due to technological involvement in the picture. That aside, the pitfalls aside, how to get involved into it. I know I cannot ask everyone. In fact, as per the statistics, only 5 to 10% of the population can really develop good skills in programming language, because certain complexity in it. So assuming that, and that people are not going to really be bothered about learning it, or they don't have the time or not the interest, how do we make them understand the importance of the technology, how the technology works, how to manage a team of engineers or programmers or software developers when they themselves don't know about the technology? You first need to understand the concepts, the theoretical aspects of it. What we spoke about, what is machine learning, what is AI, what are the difference between them, what is RPA, how to structure each of them, and then jump into the applications within your department. Talk about the chart, there are several, like a chatbot used for candidate engagement, for employee engagement, how to fill the skill gaps in your employees using machine learning, recommendation systems, and then predicting employee attrition, providing benefits and compensation, or even appraisals on mail, automatized appraisals. There are good records on data, so the system automatically sends a mail to the employee congratulating the employee on your behalf. Because sometimes we tend to miss these things. So it's very important for an employee to receive a mail. They will feel really satisfied with their work and they will perform better. So all these things, all these aspects are where to focus upon in the first place.
For computer vision, I read some articles about online interviews, like we're doing now with the candidate, and where the system can pick up micro expressions, potential deception, right, things like that. So I don't know if it's, look, I know about micro expressions. I know it's almost too quick for the human eye to catch it. But from that perspective, is that nonsense, or is it real? Is it happening? Is it possible, do you think?
So as the face is divided by muscles, what the algorithm does is it loads the data set of images that it has on facial expressions, and it recognizes patterns. Now, the question mark here, which is what I discussed in my research, is computer vision enough? Means, but just by analyzing faces, can we say, yeah, the person is happy, the person is sad, is lying, is not lying? During an interview, I'm talking about interview context, you cannot, because if I know how to fake facial emotions on a regular basis, because I might do it on my personal life or business life, I can perfectly do it in an interview. So how do we solve this problem here? We solve this problem by going directly into the area of voice recognition, and then we merge both. So we see the results from computer vision, we see the results from voice recognition, and then we see where are the common points. And then there we have our answer. Because we cannot be focused on faking facial expressions and faking our voice modulation also. So it's very complex. Hence, at some point we will slip, and that is where we catch the reality. But it takes time. It's not of data. It's not, because in movies you might see it is like instantly. You get it at the moment itself. That is not how it works. It takes at least a day to load all the data collected, because our computers are not quantum computers like in Hollywood movies. We don't have such advanced technology on a personal level at the moment.
Interesting. And then lastly, Raul, in the next 5 or so years, where do you see yourself going? What are the other maybe exciting things you see yourself working on in the future?
Well, professionally, at the moment, I'm focused upon developing the School of Business as well as the university. So hopefully we'll remain on the same path here. Hopefully with other satellite campuses also, not just in India, but other places. And talking on a more skill-wise level, though my focus is computer vision and RPA, I would like to get extremely involved in the field of healthcare, mainly because this field touches me on a personal level, considering that there is a brain cancer patient in my family, my uncle. So because of that, I created that interest in discovering why it happens, how to tackle it, how to establish the prediction set of it. And then, apart from the healthcare sector, I would like to focus on the agriculture side as well. I had no interest, I can tell you, I had no interest in agriculture till I came to India, because I am from Spain and being from there. In Spain, there is no agriculture background where I'm from, that particular region. So coming here in a country in India where actually depends on agriculture in a large manner because of the population, I can see there can be done huge solutions when it comes to the agricultural field. If we apply robotics, drones, which are AI induced, here it really can be a huge revolution. So if I can take it forward, I can create good research for companies to develop products, nothing better.
Touched on so many interesting things, Raul. I'm sure there will be viewers who might want to be in touch. I'll obviously add your social media details and the links to the school and all of that. I would love to, in a few weeks, if you have time, have another chat, maybe unpack the facial recognition and the technology around that and the ethics potentially. I mean, facial recognition is obviously a huge topic at the moment, especially in the US. Agriculture is fascinating. There are some interesting companies here in South Africa and Cape Town who's doing fantastic work with the drones and the imaging and helping farmers to better plan where to plant the crops and what's maybe needed from a soil sample point of view and things like that, and to really maximize the produce and the yield of the produce. So that's also maybe a topic we can unpack. So I do look forward to speak to you again. This was fascinating, and thank you so much for your time.
I look forward as well, absolutely.
Thank you.